What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by my good buddy Ross Baran. If you're tuning in right now, make sure to go and jump on over to the YouTube feed so you can throw us a like. That would be greatly appreciated. And also, jump on into the comment section. Let us know who you're tailing, who you're fading, who you're going to be using as your one and done this week for the 152nd Open Championship. Of course, that's going to be the primary talking point here today, Ross. We've reached the final major championship of the 2024 campaign. It's crazy, man, how time flies, but at the same point in time, it feels like a lot has happened. It's a weird conjunction of emotions, but yeah, we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. One final major championship before we dive into everything, brother. How you doing here on Wednesday afternoon?
It's a bittersweet week because you're excited it's another major, but after Sunday, well, start the clock at 9 months.
Yeah, exactly. And man, I've had some pretty good luck, I will say, in the FedEx Cup playoffs, but I think we all know the FedEx Cup doesn't quite hit exactly like major championship season does. Although I will say, Ross, I am looking forward to the Olympics here in a couple of weeks, so maybe that will add a little bit more jazz to the end of the season. But yeah, this is kind of the last hurrah, Ross. We got the Open returning to Royal Troon for the first time since 2016. That's where Henrik Stenson obviously defeated Phil Mickelson in an epic two-man duel where they basically lapped the rest of the entire field. I think Phil still finished 11 strokes ahead of third place, I wanted to say, but those two were going back and forth in an epic battle. Stenson winds up getting the better of Phil. Before we get into what we can expect to see out of this year's edition of the Open at Royal Troon 8 years later, we had also a pretty epic head-to-head duel down the stretch at the Scottish Open last week, my friend, and Adam Scott, as we were talking before we jumped on air here, man, I was really thinking it was going to be Adam Scott's time to snap that win drought. And if it was anyone else but Robert MacIntyre, man, I would have been absolutely gutted. It felt like it was two guys neck and neck that were really easy to cheer for down the stretch. Ultimately, though, Adam Scott winds up missing that putt on 18. Robert MacIntyre buries his to win by one, an epic fist pump, an epic crowd reaction. Shout out to Sahith Theegala, by the way. I don't know if you saw those pictures and videos of Sahith taking it all and enjoying in the background. Exactly what I'd be doing there. But Ross, give me your quick takeaways of Bobby Mack overcoming the adversity last year when it felt like he had done enough. He had that epic shot into 18 only to get outdone by Rory. He was the one who was outdoing someone else this year, unfortunately, for Adam Scott. But man, what a win by Bob, huh?
Such a big win for Bob. You have Bob is just so lovable because he is the every guy's guy. We're like every time when he wins, like RBC and now with Scottish, he literally just sits in his press conference. Is like, oh, I'm getting hammered. Like, I'm not gonna follow through on any of my responsibilities. Like, I'm probably not gonna be sober enough to follow through on any of these things. I mean, wins RBC, drops out of the Memorial, which would have been a huge tournament for him to participate in, and he just takes it like a normal guy would. Of like, no, I'm gonna be partying all week. I'm sorry, I can't get myself together to do that.
He's just a good, proper lad. You know, he's going to have himself a handful of pints, so much so that he even had to postpone his press conference for reopen this week by a couple of days. But we saw the pictures of his celebration following the RBC Canadian Open. I know he probably took a couple of days to have a proper celly, but quick turnaround here for the Open. He's not going to be withdrawn from this one like he did, as you referenced, at the Memorial. But yeah, man, Robert MacIntyre, you could just tell he's such a good, down to earth dude, easy guy to root for. And man, his ascension this year has been really fun to watch because, you know, he's someone we had heard about for a couple of years when he was coming up on the DP World Tour. And we got a couple spot starts out of him over in America, and we'd see him for the Scottish, and we'd see him time to time in the United States. But now coming over full time after kind of, it felt like getting some momentum following Team Europe's Ryder Cup win last year, where he was pretty solid as well, and really bursting onto the scene. And two victories now in what, a 2.5 month stretch, man. He's really finding his footing. And I think this is only the start of seeing Robert MacIntyre proving that he can be at the upper echelon of professional golf, because he's got that it factor, and has proven that he's gotten the stones, even though he didn't get it done last year. Like, that was just an iconic moment in itself where you're like, okay, this young lefty has got it. And now we're seeing it full circle, Ross. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you already said it. Like with him last year, let's be honest, he lost to a shot that got commemorated with a freaking plaque. So like if you're gonna go down, they made a plaque out of it, man. So it's not something to really hang your head about. The dude hit a shot that's being commemorated forever now.
And even
to
when
to beat you.
Yeah, exactly. And even when he did get that win in Canada, things weren't exactly going great for him on that back nine. It feels like he was losing that momentum, but really stepped up and hit some big time shots to get the job done. We saw that again last week, although Ross, not without controversy, as a real tough drop for us fans to witness, a tough drop, I'm sure, for Adam Scott to watch unveil, and a fortunate one for Robert MacIntyre after being completely dead, missing the fairway. Gets a free drop from a sprinkler head that is miraculously wandering in the fescue there. And then not only does Bobby get that break, he goes and sticks his approach shot to 8 feet, which was, I mean, to still go up there and hit that shot regardless of getting that break, I mean, it's pretty incredible. And then making the putt to go on that 3-3-3 finish to go and snatch up this bad boy. But Ross, it feels like this has really been a talking point too much for us on this show here. It feels like, I don't want to say every tournament, but 1 out of 2, 1 out of 3, there's someone in those final pairings in contention who is using what we kind of feel like is an egregious part of the rules to get a free drop. Kind of give me your feelings on how much of an impact, or I guess how prevalent this has been in professional golf this year, and kind of your feelings on the matter.
So I get the rule. I have no ill will or anything towards Bobby Mack using the rule to his advantage. It's the rule, man. You walked up, you stood on a sprinkler, you are entitled to a drop in that situation. I think we need to open the rule to interpretation. In that case, I'm sorry, it's the same shit as Xander a couple months ago, when Xander is buried in the woods, not gonna get out of the woods with any luck possible. Like, you're gonna smoke a tree, but oh, the TV tower is just outside the woods. If I did happen to cut it through all the trees, the TV tower is in my way. Man, you're not even going to get 40 yards in, let alone the TV tower that's 80 yards away, right? Same thing with Bobby Mack there. You were going to take your medicine, Bob. It's going to be a 70-yard chunk out of the fescue, back into the fairway. That's what it is. All of a sudden, there's a sprinkler in this fucking fescue out of nowhere. That, okay, well, first of all, why is it even there? Is it even used, or is it just old, right? But all of a sudden he gets this miraculous new lie and he smokes it. Instead of going 70 yards into the fairway taking medicine, he hits it to 8 feet for an eagle.
Yeah, it's a potential swing of, maybe he's making par there, likely making par there if he just chunks out, considering the distance that he's going to have into the green. I mean, yeah, maybe he steps up and hits another heroic shot to still make birdie there, but it's still a more difficult path, right? And I'm fully in agreement with you. Like, I'm not blaming Robert MacIntyre or any of these players who use the rules to their advantage. That is what anyone in that situation would rightfully do. But it's just a situation where it feels like there's too much leniency when there's a lot of differences between when guys need to get relief, right? And I don't know the exact solution here, but there needs to be some sort of free or equal lie relief. Whereas, yes, you're taking relief that from something that's going to affect your stance, like that sprinkler head for Robert MacIntyre. That does not mean you get a clean lie to hit a completely different shot. And I know that, overseeing all the golf shots on the course and having rules officials out there certainly isn't going to help with the pace of play. But it does feel like it's gotten to a point where it's happening much too frequently. And especially with all the cameras and the technology that we're having around now, like, guys are getting away with it left and right when it's not they're not having bad shots penalized enough. And that just goes, I think, as a common theme that we're seeing in professional golf right now, whether it be the technology, the golf ball, and even here with the rules, right? It feels like it just needs for a change. Something needs to be overseen. And there are the brains to come together and look at this and ultimately come to the decision that, hey, this has gotten a little bit out of control here. We got to at least take a look at this and strive to go in a direction to maybe try to take this out of the game, because it really feels like we're letting guys out of jail left and right. And that's what we love to see, is relatable golfers, guys who are having to struggle and fight for their scores out there, not get that free relief. So it's just, I think, a little bit frustrating as a fan, especially when it weighs so heavily in the impact of the golf tournament there, right, Ross?
Well, I think they showed like a stat. What I think Adam Scott had like a 90% chance of winning the tournament when Bobby Mack initially hit that shot. And then he gets the relief, hits it to eagle, and all of a sudden he's, instead of 3 shots back, now he's 2 with 3 to play. And just the data behind it, the analytics was Adam Scott had it. That he needed to basically par out, and he could hold on. And they weren't going to come catch him, and then miracle happens.
Yeah, so especially in a situation like that, I feel like they gotta have something in place where it's not just bailing him out 100% to give him another opportunity to win the tournament. When stepped up on the tee, he knows he makes birdie or eagle here, he's going to have an opportunity. Make him hit a good tee shot in order to get there, right? Like, that's the frustrating part to me. And again, it weighing in the impact of tournaments only kind of adds fuel to the fire, in my opinion.
Especially we're playing links golf, and rule number 1 of links golf is if you miss the fairway, you're going to be penalized.
That's another great point that you bring up, and something that is definitely going to be into effect this week at Royal Troon. Regardless, though, congratulations to Robert MacIntyre. I mean, it still was an epic victory, an epic fist pump nonetheless, and just seeing kind of his reaction of being like, oh my God, I actually just won my native open. Like, his reaction on the green was so pure and so heartfelt. It was awesome to see. So congratulations to Robert MacIntyre. Last little thing we got to get to from the Scottish Open, though, Ross. Ludwig, unable to close the door after having a 54-hole lead, hasn't had his best stuff on Sundays in recent tournaments. I don't know how you feel about it, Ross. I'm not worried one bit. It's going to only be a matter of time. These are problems that guys in their late 20s, early 30s are still having. Ludwig is such a baby. It's all so fresh to him. I'm not worried about him whatsoever. It's like anyone. It's only a matter of time. These are conversations I'm having about Keegan Bradley, who's about to be the captain of the U.S. Ryder Cup team, right? Like, these are normal things for a 23, 24-year-old to go through. What's kind of your thoughts on it, Ross?
My only concern is that it's happening frequently, that he flies to the top of the board the first 3 days, and that 4th day we don't show up. And one of the biggest things, I guess, is Sunday you could see it taking effect on him. You could see it slipping away, and then Robert MacIntyre did his thing. He slowed down the pace of the game. They got warned at one point. He picked it up just a little bit, but it was enough of a pace change that Ludwig was getting frustrated and pissed the whole time and couldn't match a single shot because he couldn't keep his rhythm. So I don't know. Ludwig, no stones. Maybe needs to grow stones. I don't know.
I'm not there yet personally, Ross, but I understand where you're coming from. And I will say this weekend was the first time he kind of looked a little bewildered out there on the golf course. I think one thing that I've really respected about him at a young age is how he doesn't compound mistakes, how he really doesn't like throw away rounds. Like, even when things are going bad, how many times do we see Ludwig bounce back after, a double or a triple like we saw at the US Open, and he makes birdie on the next hole. Like, he really doesn't compound errors, and it feels like he has a good mental state as well for a young lad. But this weekend did feel like it tested him a little bit, and those are situations, look, he's going to find himself in, especially as a faster player. Like, those guys don't grow on trees out there on the PGA Tour. A wide majority of these guys take their time, play at a slow pace. So that's something he's certainly going to have to adjust to. But I wouldn't say he has no stones. I would say maybe he's lacking the clutch gene right now, but I think saying no stones this early in his career, in my opinion at least, is a little bit too far. But Ludwig,
If
I think it's only a matter of time, man.
if I'm Keegan Bradley, I have it circled at the top of my list for Beth Page Black that I'm pairing Patrick Cantlay to play with Ludwig.
That's you bring up a great point there. Can't lay ice him out there. That's what we really call him, Patty Ice for. Am I right?
Let Patrick Cantlay do his Patrick Cantlay paint drying thing and make Ludwig suffer through that he can't keep his pace, while Patrick Cantlay just does Patrick Cantlay things. Chalk it up. We're +1 on the board already.
Exactly. And this time Patrick Cantlay won't. I mean, it actually kind of fueled him a little bit as he had that great finish on Saturday to give his team a little bit of life. But this time, should have some more people cheering for him than the faithful gave him in Italy last year. But I think we're ready to move on to the creme of the episode here, Ross. Moving on to 152nd Open Championship at Royal Troon, baby. The last one of the entire year. Obviously, we got the best field in golf on tap that we don't get to see enough, unfortunately. All the big boys over from Live for the most part, the guys who actually tried to qualify for this. But it's the big dogs at the top of the leaderboard. Ross, I figure we can start this conversation just around the top 5, 6, 7 names here that are around 20 to 1. Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Bryson DeChambeau, Ludwig Åberg. From that group right there, I feel like you got to have one of these guys on your betting card this week. That's the way I feel about it. I think it's a little risky if you go further down, especially in a major championship. And we usually see, even though the Open kind of allows for some other player types to maybe contend more than usual, we usually see one of the best players in the world take this bad boy down. But I'm curious, where did you ultimately end up starting your card this week? And then after you let me know, we'll talk through some of these big names.
I went mid first tier. I felt very comfortable sticking with that average number of a 16, where I double down and I win again. It just feels like Colin has to come through soon, that he's in contention every damn week in all these big tournaments, and he's putting 3.5 rounds together every week. 3.5. I feel like already having this trophy in the trophy case, I feel like it's all there for him. His game is coming around. I feel like he's the strongest one to go back into this, and I was actually surprised that I was able to get him at 16.
Yeah, I think that's a more than fair number, and I'm actually fully in agreement with you, man. And it feels like what's happening with Colin right now, and I'm sure there are people who have some betting fatigue with him that are sick of seeing him in contention and not finding a way to get it done on Sunday. It feels like a similar conversation that I'm sure people were having around Xander Schauffele going into the PGA Championship. Only difference is Morikawa already is a 2-time major champion, but dude, he just continues to play so well. There isn't anyone who hasn't won this year that's playing better golf than Colin Morikawa. He hasn't finished outside the top 16 in each of his past 9 starts since the Masters in mid-April. And the way that he's doing it, Ross, is really what's won me over. And like you, I was pleasantly surprised to see the numbers that were out there on Morikawa. I jumped on an 18 to 1 at Bet Rivers Enhanced, but it not only has the ball striking really returned, and he has that ability to hit the fairway and not give up a ton of distance, right, which is going to be crucial this week at Royal Troon. But the short game, man, we continue to talk about it here on the show, and it continues to almost get better week in and week out. And the way that his game is so balanced right now, it doesn't surprise me that he's in contention every week. It surprises me that he hasn't won yet, because he's gaining strokes across the board. He's better around the greens than he's ever been. He's gained at least a stroke around the greens in 6 consecutive starts. And he's also been popping with the putter a ton. He's gained over 3 strokes putting in 6 of his last 9. So he really has rounded out his elite ball striking ability with the best short game he's ever had in his PGA Tour career. And even though he doesn't have the win, I quite honestly think Morikawa right here, right now, is playing the best, most consistent golf since he stepped onto the scene. And man, there's no way I wasn't jumping back in on him as he's continued to ride this form here. It would be a real shame if he came out of the season without a major championship. I've been saying that he's going to win something big for far too long. So, yeah, I'm right there with you with Morikawa. Yes, he has missed the cut the last 2 times he's played the Open Championship, but he's in much better form right here, right now than he's ever been. He obviously won the Open on his debut, and historically, he has been pretty good across the Atlantic. So, for many different reasons, man, I'm all in on Colin Morikawa. I trust his game more than ever. I think he trusts his game more than ever. And yeah, that 16 to 18 to 1, the 16 to 1s are still out there for anyone who hasn't bet it. I still think that that's more than fair. So, yeah, I'm fully aboard with you on Morikawa at the top. You have anyone else under 20 to 1 that I just mentioned?
Not that I put on my card. I mean, you have the typical, like, still think Bryson's one of the second best player in the world right now. I'm expecting Bryson to come show up. The only reason I didn't go where I've been really Bryson heavy this year in everything he's played in, the only reason I didn't do it this time is because he just doesn't have a great track record, link style.
No, that's 100% valid. And I was really thinking Bryson this week because I think there's still a 20 to 1 hanging out there right now at Bet Rivers. And man, that is a gosh darn good number for how good of golf Bryson DeChambeau is playing right now. And what we talked about after he won the U.S. Open, and even what gave me confidence going into the U.S. Open, Ross, was also, like Morikawa, the improvements that Bryson made in his around the green play. We saw that on full display at Valhalla, the numerous chip-ins, all the big up and downs and the bunker saves that he made. That translated over well to Pinehurst. We all know he's a good putter. I don't worry about his short game at all. I just worry about his accuracy off the tee if he's going to be ripping driver a lot, because he's not going to get as lucky as he did when he misses the fairway at Pinehurst. And if he's as off as he was off the tee in the final round at Royal Troon as he was on Sunday at Pinehurst, he's not walking away from that thing with the trophy. So those are my concerns for Bryson DeChambeau. But among these guys in this 20 to 1 range that I just brought up, he was the one that was most intriguing to me other than Colin Morikawa. But I think the 20 to 1 on Ludwig is fair, but I just worry if he can actually get over the hump, and asking him to win a major still kind of feels like a little bit of a lot to me. And at a similar number, I just take Colin Morikawa. But we got to talk about Scotty Scheffler. We haven't talked about the boogeyman yet. Hasn't played since the Travelers Championship, his last win, which I think is an interesting choice. I'm obviously not going to get there at 550 that's out there right now. But I'll tell you what, Ross, if it was 8, I would have had a hard conversation about it. I expect Scotty to play well. He has that well-rounded game that can get him out of trouble at any situation. But I'm curious, what were your thoughts about Scotty electing to not play last week at the Scottish Open and kind of go about as cold turkey as he could have into this bad boy?
So, I mean, I don't blame him that when you've won as many times as Scotty's won. I mean, look at the FedEx Cup standings. You can add second and third place up. Scotty's still got like a 70-point lead on them. He's at the point he can pick and choose what he wants to play. That's the beauty of being the best in the game right now, is you can pick and choose when and where you want to play. Did I think it helps his chances for winning on a link style course, which is still a question mark on his resume? No, I don't think it helped at all. Obviously, he was out playing link style courses, but he didn't play in a competitive environment. Part of the reason I didn't put him on, not only just because of the number, but I don't think Scotty's going to get this one this week. I think the boogeyman will be put to bed for once.
I'm going to knock on wood after you saying that, but I'm assuming the conversation around Rory McIlroy is the same. We're not getting to him because of the number. If you had to pick one to win, Is it Rory McIlroy or Scotty Scheffler in a head-to-head battle?
This week at Troon in this environment, Rory McIlroy. I actually think everything is compiled up where I'm not going to be hurt if Rory goes and wins at his 7 number, because I actually do have a vibe going in my head that I think this is that major drought being ended, that it really is culminating for the universe. It's that thing put out there in the universe that this just feels like this is supposed to be Rory's right now. But I wasn't gonna touch the number being that low. But everything else, all the juju out there feels like, with the missed putt at Pinehurst, the coming back to Scotland and having a strong showing, just kind of revamping and resetting himself. This feels like if he's ever going to win one, that this has got to be the one he comes and gets right now.
I know a lot of people are having those same vibes, man. And if they were both available to me in a one and done situation, I think I'd rather go with Rory. If we're asking who I think's more likely to win, I think I'm still going Scotty. But I think Rory's going to be right there, as he seemingly always is. He'll obviously have the fans behind him all weekend long. I'm just done betting Rory at single digits in majors. I kind of gave that a little fetish of mine up like 2 years ago, and here I am still kind of waiting for it. Will I be absolutely rooting for it, man? You bet your sweet ass, dude. I would love to see Rory win. Will it stink to not have a piece of it? Yeah. I'm just too scarred just by seeing what he's done in majors over the years to get there at 8.5 to 1, man.
And then I definitely do play into some of the other takes of the it just feels like if he's gonna get one in this drought, that this is the one, because if he doesn't, it's a 9-month reset, so we're back at Augusta. And for how well he's played this year, how well he's been playing, I feel like that is a devastating blow if he does not close it out this week.
Yeah.
Even just not to his game, but mentally, for how well he's playing, I feel like it is just a devastating blow to him if he goes another year 0-4.
The full decade, man. Yeah, pretty crazy. Xander Schauffele, the last one of this group, of this big six that we'll call it here at the top that we haven't talked about. I expect Xander to play well. I expect Xander to be in the mix. I'm just not going to bet him at 12 to 1 to win 2 majors in the same year, Ross.
Yeah. Do I think Xander's going to win another major at some point? Yes, absolutely. I think he's too good not to. If you're cashing the futures on Xander over 1.5, over for sure for me. But right now, no. I think this field, I think he is too mid upper tier, if that makes sense, where he's up at the top, but I think there are people up at the top that are better than him still, that are going to come. I think the number is reflective of he's already chalked one off this year. I think that the number reflects that, but I do think there are people below him that have a better chance of winning this than he does.
Yeah, if he was kind of in that 18 to 20 range, I'd be more inclined to give him a hard thought. I will ask, though, if you had Xander versus Ludwig in a head-to-head, which side would you be wanting to have action on?
Xander right now.
Yeah, I'm actually in agreement. I think they'll both ultimately be there. I just trust Xander's floor a little bit more right now, and his ability to be there for 4 full days.
That would be my only main argument is I believe I think when it comes down to talent, it is a coin flip between the two of them. I think if you're coming down to consistency, I would bet on Xander to give me 4 consecutive days over Ludwig.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. All right, moving down to this next range, though, it's still super intriguing. Ross, we'll just call it this little 4-man pocket here, because I think all these 4 guys are in really intriguing spots. We got Jon Rahm at 22 to 1. According to the odds checker grid, make sure to shop at all books. If you're not already a member at Bet Rivers, use the promo code ONTAP to get up to a $250 deposit. Jon Rahm is 30 to 1 at Bet Rivers Enhanced right now. But Rahm, Fleetwood, Hatton, and Victor Hovland, you can probably get them all somewhere in between 22 to 30. Have you bet any of these guys yet so far, Ross?
I did.
Who'd
Do
you
you want to
got?
take a guess which one?
Oh, did you take Tommy Ladd?
I did not take
Oh,
Tommy Ladd
good. I
be,
was kind of gonna
be,
dunk on you if you did.
because you and I have the same agreement that when Tommy wins, congratulations to Tommy, because it's coming and he's gonna get it, but he's not gonna be on my card until that day passes.
I'm just okay missing it, Ross. It's got to be Tyrrell Hatton then, I think.
It is Tyrrell Hatton. I locked Tyrrell at 28.
Yeah, man, I understand it, and it feels like the U.S. Open really was a good opportunity for him to kind of mix for the first time, even though that Sunday didn't go the way that he wanted to. I think that's an experience that should bode well for him. An incredible links golfer throughout his career, and of course, has been playing rather consistently since joining Live Golf. Got the win a couple of weeks ago as well. I really gave Hatton a long thought, and out of anyone in this pocket here, I did like Hatton the most. I thought the round 30, man, it really gave me a long scratch of the head. I just ultimately came back to, when's the last time John Rahm hit an actual meaningful golf shot? Was it at the Ryder Cup? When's the last time John Rahm has had pressure on him, legitimate pressure on him, and even under less pressure than what he'll face this week, he has been able to close the door and live? I think John Rahm can play good this week, and I think he'll pop up on the leaderboard somewhere because he has a spectacular history at Open Championships. I just still don't think he's in the right form to win, man. I don't think he's had the reps. I don't think he's had the vital reps that he needs out of major championships, right? The last time we saw him in a major was the PGA, only 2 rounds there where he missed the cut, and then a disappointing T45 at the Masters. He's just not in good enough form to win a major to me right now.
Yeah. Our now new good friend Scratch Golf had me on yesterday, and that was my exact answer. Is, do I think John Rahm is one of the best golfers in the world? Absolutely. I think John Rahm is one of the best golfers in the world. Do I think his game is major championship worthy right now? No, it is not. He is not playing major championship golf. He is still one of the best golfers in the world, but he is not at the peak performance he needs to be to bring one of these things home. Where vice versa, Tyrrell Hatton had a great showing at Augusta, made some noise at the end of the tournament, had another great showing at the U.S. Open. Following the U.S. Open, won Live Nashville. Again, this past week, had a great showing again. It's just showing me, doesn't matter that it's on a smaller scale. The game has good form right now, and now we're going home for him. That this just feels like the environment. He's on the upward trend. We're going back to a link style course, what he grows up playing on, his bread and butter. I was very confident getting a 28 on him for this week.
Yeah, we're thinking similarly because I was close to having a Morikawa Hatton at the top, and again, if it wasn't going to be Hatton, it was going to be Rahm. I ultimately ended up passing on this entire range. Before we go on to the next one, though, give me your thoughts on Victor Hovland leading into this year's Open. He has a really solid Open history as well. Played in the final pairing with Rory. Some people forget a couple of years ago when Rory melted down a little bit that Sunday and Cameron Smith came charging to win the Claret Jug. What are your thoughts on Victor? 33-1 feels like a good number.
Right now, wasted money because I just don't know where his head's at. Every week is a coin flip for him right now. One week he comes out and he's finishing he's finishing third at the PGA. The next week he's fucking 4 over through 7 holes in the first round, and you're just like, oh well, that's dead. Why did I think that something was gonna change for him?
Yeah, no, I feel you. And the around the green continues to be putrid. It's literally been good one time this year, and it was at the PGA Champion. That's the only time Victor Hovland has gained strokes around the green this year. Literally. I mean, it's still a problem for him. The irons haven't been good in his last 2 starts. I just can't trust him at this point in time. And I feel like when Victor is going to win a major, it's not going to be having this type of form. Victor Hovland has 1 top 10 this year, man. 1 top 10.
And again, it's the same thing as John Rahm. I believe Victor Hovland is one of the best golfers on the planet. He's not in form. The game is not in form. And I don't even think it's completely his game. I think it's his head. I think he made so many changes. It just completely messed him up. and he's going back to the drawing board trying to reset. And unfortunately, this whole reset is coming 3/4 of the way through the season, where
Yeah.
it's just lost.
It feels like he's trying to piece it together, and like you said, might have over tinkered a little bit, and now like trying to reset, he's even having a hard time finding that type of form. So yeah, for multiple different reasons, I'm out on Victor. And real quick, just to kind of put a bow on the John Rahm thing, even when I was going through some of his numbers, Ross, like there's nothing really about his game that stands out. Yeah, he's finished in the top 10 in 10 of 11 starts that he's had for Live, but it's not like he's like dominating those fields statistically, and like his irons really haven't been that consistent whatsoever. The putter, he hasn't really flashed like the special upside we can see out of John Rahm when he really has it rolling. So, yeah, like Victor, for multiple different reasons, I am also ultimately out on John Rahm. But I will say I won't blame anyone for taking a 28 or 31 to 1, 30 to 1 flyer on John Rahm, because regardless of his form, yeah, that is still a good number. So I would understand from that perspective alone.
I completely agree and understand. If you want to take that flyer, that's a very respectable number to take a flyer on. Just me, for someone that watches golf 24/7 and analyzes this shit, I just don't. It's not there for me to take that number, no matter how juicy and great that number looks. I'm just not confident in his game right now.
Yeah, no. Enough said right there, plain and simple. Well, Ross, I only have one player under 30 to 1. You only have two, so I would like to imagine that we both peppered this upcoming range pretty good. I'm not going to read off all the names here, but from this, let's call it a 40 to 70 to 1 pocket. Who are the players in this range that you ultimately wound up betting?
One of the first ones, you and I are riding again, buddy, because I Mr. Tom Kim. I got Tom Kim at 40 or 45. Sorry.
Yeah, dude. Tom Kim, he had two really good rounds last week in Scotland, one of those being the final round where he vaulted himself up the leaderboard to T15. Man, I really feel like something big is coming for Tom Kim. His game has really, really bounced back nicely after a pretty horrendous start. And I think that kind of that patience and that maturation and the poise that he's shown at a young age, like those are the type of mentality that I think you need to have in order to contend at major championships. And when I think about major championships, Ross, the US Open, the PGA Championship, given how those venues are usually set up, I don't ever think those are going to be in the wheelhouse for Tom Kim, but I'm not surprised that he's had his best major result of his young career at the Open last year, where he finished T2. He also even finished T47 in his tournament debut at St. Andrews as a 20-year-old. And it's because how he could play just a clean game from tee to green. Hitting fairways is what it's all about for Tom Kim. But the long irons have really found a way to bounce back, and just his overall approach game has been really solid. But hitting fairways consistently is really the nature of Tom Kim's game, and I think that's what's going to give him an ample amount of opportunities this week. And he just has a lot of balanced statistics in the numbers that I ran in the long irons, the long par fours, the long par threes, bogey avoidance, total driving. He ranks inside the top 25 in all of those. And the short game's been really good too. He's gained strokes in the short game categories in 10 of his last 11. And his game, like I mentioned last week, has translated very well worldwide. Not only does he have all of these top 15 finishes at the Renaissance Club in Scotland, but he also finished T18 in the fall last year at Wentworth, which is in the United Kingdom. Also finished T6 at Le Golf National in France, and of course had lots of experience growing up on the Asian tour. So he's played a lot of different styles of golf, and I think he's kind of picked up pieces all over the place that'll give him opportunities to contend regardless. And I nabbed him at 50 to 1, 45 to 1, I still think is a rather solid number. And considering I was on Tom Kim at the Travelers, he didn't really contend last week, but still had a pretty solid finish. I'm willing to give him another chance this week on, again, the major championship venue setup that I think favors him the best.
And what stuck out for me is his driving accuracy.
Yeah.
Because your article pointed out something very specific that not a lot of people are going to pay attention to, is that there are 6 very long par 4s on the back 9. they're all into the teeth of the wind
Oh yeah.
for the majority of the time, where the distance is not going to matter as much. It's going to be putting it in the fairway is going to make or break you in that stretch, where I think that is one of the stretches on this course that Tom Kim is going to make up ground on people, strictly because he is very accurate off the tee with his driver.
Yeah, I completely agree. And quite honestly, if the course is playing, if it is gusty and breezy and cold like we expect it to be, those all the par fours on the back nine, I think most guys are just going to be playing for pars there. And how do you do that, Ross? Simply, or most simply, you find the fairway, because guess what? If you're missing the fairway on those long par fours, you're going to have to pitch out. It's a stroke penalty basically every time you miss the fairway here. And then, oh yeah, with your third, you're going to have 200, 225 yards in, dead into the wind. That's going to be an almost impossible up and down. So yes, I think you bring up a really good point in that, in particular, hitting the fairway is going to be crucial everywhere, but it's going to be even more crucial on those difficult par fours on the back nine. It's
And
really a tale of two nines here at Royal Troon.
and he's definitely one of those guys where he's in the upper echelon for distance every week. It's the fact that he matches his distance with the accuracy. And I think that is the winning formula when we make the turn and hit that back nine, that he's going to be able to hold up the distance like the long ballers. But I think he's staying in the fairway where other guys are going to find some trouble.
Yeah, last couple stats here on Tom Kim before we move on from him. 24th in total driving among all players in the field over the last 24 rounds. 12th on the PGA Tour this season in driving accuracy. And also, kind of a little wrinkle in there that I like to see as well, Ross. He's 5th in distance from edge of fairway. So even when Tom Kim does miss, it's not like it's a mile left most of the time. He's rather controlled from tee to green and just consistent in all forms of his game. And that was really what I was looking at this week.
I mean, all you're telling me there is, hey, if he misses the fairway, he's in the first cut.
More times than not, yeah, fifth on distance from edge of fairway this year. So yeah, not a lot of drastic misses. And fairways can kind of be a little bit of a wonky stat, right? Because literally 1 inch in the first cut, well, that's technically a missed fairway, but that kind of shows you when he is missing, it's usually in those types of situations. So I really like to see that. Who else you get to in this range though, Ross? I know you got more names.
So another one, I'm actually riding with you from last week. He let me down for the first 3 days. And then all of a sudden, everything clicked for him. He made an incredible run and proved why his game adds up at these types of environments. And I'm hoping that we can just get a little nugget on him. But seeing Wyndham Clark at 60 was just too good for me to pass up, knowing how well his strengths fit to this type of course, and the fact that he backed it up on Sunday with shooting 10 under to go to get into the top 10 in the morning group too.
And Ross, what did we talk about? Sometimes it's these the shorter courses where you do want to be going driver still, where Wyndham Clark does a lot of his best work. Like we saw him gain 1.5 strokes off the tee en route to that T3 finish at the RBC Heritage. Also gained almost 4 strokes off the tee at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am when he got his victory there. I really thought hard about Wyndham. I think there are 66s out there at Bet Rivers Enhanced. And the putter too. Like we know when the putter is clicking, it's not always clicking, but when it's on, it's like winning upside. So yeah, I gave Wyndham a hard thought. I just ultimately liked some other guys in this range a little bit more, so I couldn't get to him. But I completely understand it. I completely understand it. Good number for his true winning chances in this field.
So that was after there.
You got any more before we go past 70 to 1?
Not in that range. I gave a really good. The only other one that I stared at for a while is he's been on my card a couple different times this year. So freaking consistent and good all around. I gave Corey Connors a good hard look again.
Yeah, dude, I did too, and he continues to putt the lights out, man. He led the field in strokes gained putting last week at the Scottish Open. Like, for the Corey Connors truthers out there, that's like, oh my God, it's time to get on Corey Connors because the ball striking's always been there. It's been the putter that has historically let him down. And I was on him last week as well in Scotland. Just what ultimately came back to me is, do I think Corey Connors is going to win a major championship when he's only won the Valero Texas Open twice? Like, I feel like there's a bigger prelude for Corey Connors before he wins this type of tournament. But I really did give him a good thought or two as well, but I did ultimately end up passing. The guys who I got to in this range who I haven't referenced yet, well, Tom Kim being one of them. The other was Patrick Cantlay, man, and
Yeah.
I know it's not the most popular pick out there. I understand that, but he's starting to put his game back together after, like Tom Kim, like Colin Morikawa, really didn't have his best stuff early on in the season, but it's the way he's been going about his business that really intrigued me. T3, obviously, at the U.S. Open. Little did he know he would have had a potential chance at getting in that playoff had he made that birdie putt with everything that had been happening ahead of him, right? And maybe Bryson goes on to make bogey. Like, there was a world in which Patrick Cantlay won the U.S. Open, a world that not very many people would have liked to live in. But he gained strokes all across the board. There are multiple strokes in every category, and he gained strokes across the board once again at the Travelers Championship. And I just think 50-1 was a big enough number for me seeing his current form to bite on Cantlay. And I don't love that he did just recently withdraw from the John Deere, obviously, and I think he would have he would have liked a little bit more of a tune-up going into this bad boy. But he finally got that experience in a major championship where he was in the mix. It had been a while for him in that kind of conversation, but does have a T8 in 2022 in his career at the Open, a T12 in his debut here as well. Has only missed the cut once in 5 career starts in this tournament. So yeah, I just thought 50-1 was good enough for the current form that Patrick Cantlay is in. And quite honestly, Ross, just with all my bets, what I really went with is just guys who are really well-rounded and in good current form. And I think that's pretty apparent when Colin Morikawa, as I outlined, has gained strokes across the board in numerous starts coming in. Same thing with Tom Kim. Same thing with Patrick Cantlay. I kind of have a theme with my golfers this weekend, and Cantlay fit it, and I thought 50-1 was a good enough number. But that's the only guy that him and Tom Kim are the only guys that I bet in this 40 to 70-1 pocket. I will say, go first.
I was gonna say I did have one person. I'm just gonna say they're not on right now, but come morning they may be on my card. It's a little ball tickle for the fact that at 70-1, I really want to watch Min Woo Lee hit stingers all weekend into that wind.
No, yeah, his driver and just his creativity out there with the driver in the fairway woods, but also around the green as well. I mean, the dude is just an absolute craftsman. I feel like that's more of an entertainment bet.
It is definitely an entertainment bet, but it's been one of those things in the back of my mind of if it's windy and gusty for the guys trying to hit the long ball, how fun would it be to have just a little bit of money on Min Woo and watching him hit head-high stingers down the fairway 300 yards?
No, absolutely. That does sound like a damn good time. I'm not going to lie to you. One other guy from this range I wanted to kind of pique your mind on, super popular, opened up at 100-1. There were 130-1s a couple of weeks ago. Louis Oosthuizen getting a lot of buzz this week. That number has been smashed down. What are kind of your thoughts on Louis, Ross?
On DraftKings right now, they got Louis down to 60.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not there.
But the track record adds out that this is just one of those courses on his resume that he's always played well at. And it's the type of place he's always going to play well at every single year. It doesn't matter. He's going to at least one round, he's going to do something spectacular. It's just, is he going to be around to play the weekend and follow it up?
Yeah, I kind of have the same. The way I think about Tommy Fleetwood is kind of the way I think about Louis. Even though Louis has a major under his belt, of course, and it was at the Open. Um, I don't know. I just have scar tissue by Louis and Ross. This was well before our time of doing the show together, but in 2021, when I first got into golf, I was big on the Louis train. And it broke my heart when he didn't get the job done in the U.S. Open against John Rahm and melted down the stretch like he always does. But I had Louis in 2021 at Royal St. George's when he was going into the final round with the lead. And I remember being with a couple of my buddies and being like, Louis going to win an Open today. Louis getting his second major today, fellas. We're getting the job done. And of course, plugged in a bunker on like hole 3, winds up making a triple. All hell breaks loose. I could see Louis playing well. I'm just out in the 2-win market, especially at this beatdown number, Ross.
Yeah.
One thing I will say, last certainly not least, Hideki Matsuyama always has my heart, and I think his around the green game could be interesting. I'm not going to bet him though. That is something I'm letting be in the past. But getting to the 75-1 range, Ross, I got a couple plays down here. You got any as well?
My last play is actually further down than that.
You have no one in this pocket. You just want me to run through my picks here real quick?
Yeah, you go for it.
Cool. So 75 range, I bet Sahith Theegala 75-1. Good enough for me. Finally came back to life last week at the Scottish Open. Another high-end finish for Sahith this year after going through a little bit of a rocky stretch, particularly with the putter. But the putter bounced back last week nicely. The around the green has gotten much better, which was oddly letting him down. And when I think of Sahith, I think of him as a really good, like almost like Min Woo, like a very good creative type of guy who can hit a lot of different shots. We've talked a lot on the show this year, Ross, about how he's weaponized the driver. The approaches have been rather good. 75-1 was a big enough number for me to jump on Sahith. I also jumped back on the Sung Jae Im bandwagon, man. There was nothing I saw last week that will discourage me from getting off of Sung Jae. Just continues to rack up high-end finish after high-end. The guy has 7 top 12s in his last 9 starts. The only thing that's really eluded him this year in terms of high-end finishes have been the majors, Ross. The miscut at the PGA Championship, miscut at the U.S. Open have been the only things that have plagued him. But Sung Jae's game has just been incredible, man. And I know he's eluding the win, and he's only won twice in his PGA Tour career. But I really think he's found something. I think he's getting good vibes from Will Wilcox, who's on the bag for him. Those two just seem like a happy-go-lucky duo, and I just envision them having a ton of fun. But there's just so much upside right now in Sung Jae's game. He's gained over 7 strokes to the field in 6 of the last 8 times that he's teed it up. And really well-rounded numbers as well. 3rd in par 4s, 350 to 400 yards. 8th in around the green. 8th in bogey avoidance. 16th in long iron proximity, over 200 yards. Top 20 in long par 5s. Top 20 in tee to green. And 75-1 is much bigger. I think I bet him last week at 60. So getting a little bit of a boost. Yeah, the field's a little bit better, but I still think the form's there. So those were the 2 guys I got to the 75-1 range. But moving down, kind of getting into the bomb section here, we can kind of just get to the point where we shout out who we got left here, Ross, as we get to the end of the show. Who else you got, and what numbers you got them at?
I found it borderline disrespectful that I have Akshay Bhatia on my card at 100.
Bro, I got him at 150. 150. I thought that was, I'd still smack that 100 around. Akshay's cooking right now, folks. Don't be discouraged by him not getting it done in Detroit. He's a young lad. Those moments are going to happen. And I think people would be easy to forget how well he's stepped up to the plate this year. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with Scotty Scheffler and Tom Kim, in that final round of the Travelers. Also played with Scotty Scheffler on Saturday as well. Had a high-end finish at the U.S. Open. And I know asking 22-year-old Akshay to win a major does feel like a lot. But me and you both have been believers of his upside for a long, long time. And it feels like he's really using all these experiences and just continue to get better and better and better. And the putting upside has been more prevalent. Really accurate driver of the golf ball as well. Good ball striker. I'm all aboard with you on Akshay, my friend.
After that, I only had two more. One of the two will end up on my card by the morning. Benny on at 150.
Yeah, no, I completely understand it, man. And it's really going to pain my heart if Benyon is in contention and I don't have money on him because I've ridden him so far this year. Yeah, no, I completely understand that one. Thing is, what it got down to for me is just you can't bet them all in this range, but there were a lot of intriguing names for me. Benyon certainly was one of them.
And then my last one that low key had a great tournament last week. He's had several great tournaments in the past several weeks. Victor Perez at 170.
Oh, Big Dick Vic. I didn't think that you were going to go in that direction, quite honestly. And what's funny is I had a buddy text me this morning being like, is Victor Perez any good? I'm in this like tier pool where you got to find, basically diamonds in the rough. And he was trying to scope out exactly who is worth taking a gander on from that deep down range. But no, Vic Perez, baby. Someone who has popped up on the DP World Tour over the years and nearly won the RBC Canadian Open. I had money on him that week. Where he finished, I believe, runner-up or third to Robert MacIntyre. But no, popped up again last week at the Genesis Scottish Open T10. Has a long history of playing over in Europe and playing link-style golf. Yeah, I wish I had more room because I actually like the Vic Perez shout.
And then obviously because we just ride Mateo Montecero at 350.
Yeah, I'm back in on Mateo, and I'm gonna toot our own horn here a little bit, Ross, and I don't mind doing it. We were two of the only people out there I know who had money on Mateo Manacero last week, and boy was right there playing in the penultimate pair and going into the weekend along with Sung JM. Wasn't able to keep it going throughout the weekend. The putter kind of abandoned him, but still a T15 result. And looking at his numbers right now, Ross, like the approach is unbelievable. I'm not kidding. Like Mateo Manacero is striking the ball as good as anyone right now with his irons. Like routinely gaining multiple strokes. He gained 9 strokes to the field last week with his irons. That definitely the best in the field. 400 to 1 for a guy who has experience on these types of courses. Obviously, what was it? His open, I forget exactly what the cool story was, who he was walking with at the Open when he was a sought-after prospect coming up well over a decade ago. But, man, what a cool moment it would be for Mateo Manacero to be in the mix on the weekend at the Open again. 400 to 1 to keep it rolling. Yeah, I'm absolutely there with Mateo once again. I did skip one of my picks that I don't want to leave anyone in the dark about. I did also bet Russell Henley at 125 to 1. Someone who I think has a little bit better of a major track record than people consider, and someone who also hits a ton of fairways. His distance from the edge of fairway is the best on the PGA Tour. Can he get it done on the weekend? I have my concerns. I feel like he's very Brian Harman-like, though. I get Brian Harman vibes from Russell Henley. So he and Mateo Manacero are the ones that rounded out my card. But Ross, I mean, there are a lot of interesting names in this group of 100 plus players. Were there any others who you were like really thinking at, or any other crazy names you want to shout out?
So one that is going to end up on my card just for shits and gigs is we almost had 2 players graduate and enter the PGA Tour via PGA Tour University. Gordon Sargent elected to return to Vanderbilt for his senior season instead of taking the card. Gordon Sargent is in this field. He is currently 500 to 1. But I'm actually looking at the 30 to 1 top 10 number because he does have the game. Lacks the experience, but the game is there. That for 30 to 1 flyer on a top 10, that seemed like a fair little fun tidbit to throw on a card.
And dude, Open Championships are random. Those of you who may remember from Full Swing, Alex Fitzpatrick had his hat in the mix last year. And I think that's his more than fair number for a top 10 out of Gordon Sargent, who had he have been on the PGA Tour right here, right now, he could be in that same conversation, same breadth of air as how we were thinking about Ludwig potentially when he first stepped on. We ultimately don't know. I would say 30-1 is a pretty good gamble to find out. So I'm there with you, Ross. Any other shouts you wanted to give out before we kind of tie a bow on this episode, good buddy?
Just I guess one of the most interesting ones out there, off of Live, the Crushers replacement player, John Catlin.
He's been getting a ton of buzz.
That does step up when he gets called up onto their roster. John Catlin is in this field, and he is 500-1.
Definitely. Where did I first? I've heard Catlin's name for a couple of years now, and to kind of see him, I wouldn't say burst onto the scene yet, but kind of getting some recognition is kind of cool. And I have heard him getting some attention this week, so you're certainly not alone in that, Mark. I have a couple of names to shout out for you real quick here, Ross. Or one name, I guess, in particular, and I'm going to be taking this man for first round leader at 400-1. Shout out to my buddy Elrod, who has cooked up the parlay of parlays. Ross, you'll like this one too. Jack McDonald. You heard of Jack McDonald?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 minutes away from the course. We're betting Jack McDonald in the first tee time, in the very first tee time of the Open. So we'll get out there. No one's going to be on the course ahead of him. Hopefully it's a little damp, maybe good conditions. 400-1 Jack McDonald, first round leader. And here's the bet of your lifetime, Ross. Jack McDonald, end of round leader at the Open Championship, parlayed with Neil Shipley, end of round leader at the Barracuda Championship. It's 5 to win $92,000.
Oh.
Sounds like a fun way to kick off the Open. Let's see if it can ride.
I could use almost $100,000. So yes, absolutely, let's ride.
And I'm always in for a good hometown story, and it feels like those pop up every now and again at the Open. So a 400-1 sweat that it happens. That's Jack McDonald by himself. Can't even pronounce this number, sweat, along with Neil Shipley. I'll be tailing that. I also definitely want to let you know that I did take the Colin Morikawa Rico Hoey double this week. If that cashes, I think it's $9 to win me like $5,500. Rico's revenge, man. I was on Rico last week going into the final round at the ISCO, looking like he was going to pull it through until momentum and adrenaline got the best of him, and he carried that approach into the water on 18. He goes on to blow it, and Harry Hall and his stupid hat wind up pulling through.
And I just want to say, Rico is forgiven because anyone that watched that playoff, Rico's forgiven for the fact that Pearson Cootie hit the most pathetic shot I have ever seen to tie, to extend the match. He duffed the chip. When he hit it, I literally thought, oh, did he just hit that by accident? And then I realized, oh no, that was his attempt.
Super tough.
When you got a hole out to tie, to extend the match, you either put that thing in the hole or you blow it 90 feet by. You don't duff it 3 inches.
Yeah, that was a tough look for Mr. Cootie, especially after willing himself through that kind of shoulder injury and making that clutch putt at 18. I was watching down the stretch of the ISCO, baby. It was appointment television after the Scottish wrapped up, Ross. I didn't get your text till a couple of days later, but yes, I was 100% watching.
I was absolutely disgusted that was an attempt for a tie.
Yeah, it was tough. Anything you got for the Barracuda this week, though?
I honestly have not looked at the Barracuda because I'm already preparing to wake up early and flip on the tube.
Yeah, 100%.
And watch some old school links golf.
And quite honestly, I won't watch the Barracuda. I'm not a fan of the stable for scoring, quite honestly. But this brings me back last year, Ross, when I bet on the double, just like I did with Morikawa and Rico. This time last year, I bet the double. It was Scotty at the Open and Akshay at the Barracuda, 10 to win 3,500. And Akshay held up his end of the bargain, and Scotty Scheffler did not. It was a very, very sad non-cashed parlay for your boy. And me being the dummy that I am, I didn't take Akshay by himself outright. Didn't do it with Rico Hoey either this week. So hopefully he and Colin Morikawa can get the win so I don't get banged like I did last year. But Ross, any final thoughts before we wrap things up? I know you want to hit the hay so you can wake up early. Excellent episode. Appreciate all your perspective. Any final thoughts?
It's links golf, baby. Let's get to it.
I hope it's nasty. I hope the rain is pouring sideways. I hope we get a gust, and it's not in the forecast at this point in time, but it does seem like it's going to be chilly. It'll be breezy. I don't expect it to be a birdie fest. I know some people might think that will be the case, seeing the -20 winning score from when Henrik Stenson was here last, but I quite honestly expect it to be around 13 or 14, Ross, if I had to guess. Do you think that's fair?
I put it 11 to 13 was my range where I think we're going to see our champ.
I'd be more than happy with that. All right, Ross, thank you very much as always to you, and thank you to everyone. Thank you very much to everyone out there who tuned into this episode. Quick reminder to make sure you follow Golf on Tap on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you tune into your podcast. That way you can catch up with us when you're not able to join live. Also, make sure to go and follow Golf on Tap on X as well. We're really trying to grow the account right now. I'll be live tweeting all night long. I took off work tomorrow. I'm going to go and get myself a nap, and I'm going to be watching the Open all night. I'll be live tweeting all the good content, so make sure to follow us there. You can check out Ross at RossJohn22. As for my personal, you can find me at Jack Bushman2. Everyone out there, enjoy the 152nd Open Championship at Royal Troon, the final major of the year, the last hurrah. Till next time, everyone, crack 'em, lock 'em, and we'll see you next time.